The following program is presented by the HTM Podcast Network.
And
TheGorillaPosition.com, telling the stories of pro wrestling storytellers.
welcome to another episode of Turnbuckle Talk, powered by TheGorillaPosition.com and a proud part of the Roar Network, presented by the Hitting the Marks Podcast Network, and now in association with IndiePW.com. We are sponsored by CollarNebelBrand.com, where you can get 10% off when using promo code JKPodcast at the checkout. And also in partnership with HypeCityVapors.com, where you get 15% off all your e-juice for your vape by using promo code JKPodcast. We can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter by searching at TB Talk Pod. To listen to the podcast, you can find us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and all those other podcasts out there as well. As always, I'm Big Joe.
And I'm Carl Carafel.
All right, Carl, another week has come and gone in the world of professional wrestling. Corey Graves and Mauro Ranallo, there's been more kind of going on with this situation. He has formally apologized to Mauro. Do you buy this apology, or is this, is there some ulterior motive, or what's your whole take on him apologizing for all these shenanigans here?
I don't believe that there's any ulterior motive to this or anything like that at all. Do I think it was sincere? No, I don't think that it was sincere at all. We all know Corey Graves is a guy who just speaks his mind. We get it. Mm-hmm. We understand that. So for him to come out there and say, oh, I'm sorry, I hurt somebody's feelings, just didn't seem not necessarily appropriate, but just didn't seem genuine at all.
Yeah, and Mauro's apparently really in rough shape again with this. And on social media, news-wise, I've seen so much going back and forth on either side of this debate on this whole thing. People are like, oh, Mauro's just being a crybaby, and people are saying, oh, no, this guy is genuinely depressed. And for myself, it's one of those things where it's difficult to talk about because I think when you're in such this kind of limelight like that, I think maybe if you're somebody who can't really maybe take the pressure, then maybe it's time to maybe step away or maybe to take a role that maybe doesn't have you out there with the public all the time.
Maybe so, but this could be his way of coping and his way of getting over all of this. This might be his avenue and his outlet to take those feelings and put those feelings out. We all know the emotion and the strength behind everything that Mauro Ranallo says, especially when he's on the microphone for any match. It doesn't matter. It could be a match where a donkey and a giraffe are in the ring, and he is going to give it his absolute everything and all. And to me, it just seems like this is a outlet for him to take those feelings that he's got and kind of push them aside and bring out something good to make him feel good instead of feeling the way that he does.
A question for you. I'm curious on your take on this. Do you think that there's some legitimate bullying that kind of goes on in WWE when it comes to not only commentators but talent and whatnot, and with people being relatively new versus people being there for a while? Is this kind of an issue that's kind of creeping up on us here, and it's become more prevalent thanks to the story?
I don't think that just because of this story, that we're seeing it. I think that that's just the society that we're living in nowadays. This is something that has been in the world of not only just professional wrestling, but professional sports for decades. This isn't something new. Bullying inside of the workplace, especially in a sports environment, this isn't something new, people. This has been there all the time.
Very true.
It's just other people coped with it in better ways or different ways, and didn't bring it to light and didn't talk about it and stuff like that. Whereas now we're seeing more of a society where it's being told that we need to talk about it. We need to bring this out. We need to make sure that, people's feelings are being shown, and that people aren't just stewing in their own juices and getting to the point where, something, fatal or bad can happen. Right. So, I mean, that's kind of the situation that I think that we're in. And just because of that and how that is coming out in society, that we're starting to see more and more of it.
And I hope that we can see a really positive outcome to this, because this is something that's getting quite a bit of press, even just outside of the professional wrestling bubble here. And you had mentioned, that this is fairly commonplace, not just in professional wrestling, professional sports, workplaces in general. Maybe this can kind of shed some light on the situation and give it a bigger platform. And maybe we can see some improvements, maybe some legislation, some laws to put it more in place to kind of get this to a point where people don't need to be afraid when they go into their workplace, whether it's going to an office building, whether it's going and working at a home improvement place, or whether you're a professional wrestler wrestling in a ring, or whether you're commentating a professional wrestling match. You should feel comfortable doing what you're doing.
You're definitely right there. And there are policies and laws and stuff like that are in place. But I mean, no matter what, it's going to happen. There's gun laws.
Sure.
But we still see mass shootings.
True. Very true.
Right?
Yeah.
There's laws against minors smoking, but we still see minors having a cigarette.
Very true.
Right? So it's kind of hard. How much more regulations and legislations can we put onto something? We're never going to be able to make everything 100% safe. It's not going to happen.
A very good point. So hopefully Mauro can kind of bounce back and we can see him back on NXT, because he is really kind of the voice of the commentary team there. So looking forward to, hopefully he'll come back and hopefully he'll continue to have some success there. So going from,
I mean, sometimes it's just time. Yeah. That's all it is.
For sure.
I mean, even Alexa Bliss had put out a tweet, I believe it was today or yesterday, that just pretty much said, I'm taking 2 days or 3 days, and I'm just laying on my couch and I'm watching Disney Plus, and I am just doing this for me because that's what I need. Right. And that's something that is out there for everybody. Anybody can do that. You need a couple days. You go to your employer and say, I need a couple days. You want me at 100%? I need a couple days. And most employers are going to say, all right, let's fit in a couple days for you. Go and get rested up, do what you got to do, and come back to work.
Hey,
right.
Even just recently for myself, they had me scheduled on for, they wanted me to do like an 11-day in a row stretch. And I was just like, not happening. I said, I have some vacation time booked or vacation time available. I'm taking a few days, because 11 in a row, I mean, that would have just burned me right out. So, and they would, like you said, they went along with it. So in most workplaces, I think you can kind of recognize when maybe they're pushing you a little too hard. And then, sometimes as employees, we got to push back a little bit to, fight for what's right for us. So.
Nice.
So going from that to something that it's interesting and a real big head scratcher for me, and it has to do with Bray Wyatt. Now, for those who have been paying attention recently, you know that this is the guy that's probably the most over in the company right now, selling the most merch, even though he's kind of a bit of a bad guy. But that's kind of beside the point. A new piece of novelty merch kind of came out for this guy here, and it's basically, you can go online, you can find pictures of it. It's essentially a replica of a belt with his face on it. But the real kicker with this thing is the price of this thing here, Carl. And I'm just pulling this up here to make sure that I'm telling you guys the right amount here. It is selling right now on the WWE.com shop for, this is in American funds, to the best of my knowledge, $6,499.99. Now, there is something that people are leaving out about the story. This is a limited run, kind of a special edition type of a thing. But does this company not know what their fans and what their people who like their product, what they can afford? This is something that's just way out of the price range for basically anybody who watches their product.
It definitely is. This is something that is only going to appeal to a certain number of people. It's individually numbered. It's handmade, handcrafted.
Yep.
Just to kind of give you the quick rundown on it, it is being designed and handcrafted by Tom Savini. Tom Savini Studios, the godfather of gore is what he's called. He's a special effects artist. He's good. They sculpted it with detail and stuff like that. The mask on it, or the face on it, is latex skin and acrylic eyes. It's regular size belt. The height on it is like 12 inches. It weighs 7 pounds, 8 ounces. Yep. Each one is individually numbered with a certificate of authenticity, hand signed by Tom Savini. No two of them will be identical because they are being handmade, each one of them. And each one of them is on a genuine leather strap. Now, for those of you who don't know Tom Savini, he has done a lot of different things, from Friday the 13th, Dawn of the Dead, Creepshow, Day of the Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Huge name inside of the horror industry. Now, his previous collaborations that he's done with WWE have been from like the Crowns and Masks for Triple H and Stephanie, the Wyatt family sheep masks, the hammers and the masks for the Bludgeon Brothers, and the Fiend's mask as well, plus the lantern and the Firefly Funhouse puppets. So this guy is honestly, he's a master at what he definitely does. But really? Really, one?
Yeah. Like
your average customer can't afford that.
No.
Cannot. And two, okay, I'm going to stop for a second. Joe, tell me what you think. What do you think about this belt?
At first glance, I'm looking at a picture of it now, Carl, and I got to say, like, it's hard because it's so different than anything else that belt-wise that I've seen in professional wrestling, and I just can't wrap my head around the price of it. I mean, you had mentioned, who has made it and all of the backstory and the custom nature of it and everything like that. To me, it's still just it just doesn't justify the price of it. We're looking at almost $7,000 for a novelty wrestling belt. I mean, that's a hard thing to justify there.
Definitely, it is. I'm going to give my thoughts. I don't like this at all.
Mm.
This, I mean, I get it. It's a total novelty thing, but like, this is supposed to be what the Universal Championship now. It looks absolutely nothing like a championship title belt to me. It says nothing about being a champion on it. It's got the hurt heel words written on it. The belt itself even just kind of looks like a weightlifting belt with some stuff added onto it. Yeah. It's not even like snap buckles on the side. It's more of like belt buckle style, double belt buckle style, which it's just, I don't know. I'm not a fan of this at all. And I know that there are some people out there that are loving this and loving the look of it and stuff like that. But for me, I'm just not a fan. Not a fan of this at all.
And for me, especially when I see that price there, to me, it's just an example of this company just being tone deaf to what their audience is about, and what they can afford and what they can sit through and what they can watch. I mean, just when you look at the bulk of their fans being relatively young people, could you just imagine a kid going to his parents and saying, "Hey, can you buy this $7,000 wrestling belt for me?" The parents aren't going to go for this unless they have limitless money.
Right? Yeah, it's totally not something that is in the grasp of the everyday consumer.
If it was maybe in the hundreds of dollars, I can maybe then see maybe it's something that's more in reach for the average fan out there. But this is just way beyond.
Yeah, very much so.
So we'll see if maybe they can make a version of this that is more accessible to people. But even if they do that and pull this, to me, it's then almost kind of admitting it has kind of a double pronged effect there, where you're admitting defeat or that you made a mistake if you replace it with something else at this point. So honestly, it's kind of a lose-lose, no matter which way you kind of look at it.
Well, I don't think that they would even remove this one. I think that they would just, for those collectors out there, they can go and buy this collector's edition, and then it's going to be something that's a little bit more sought after years down the road kind of thing. But you go and you make a affordable replica of this, mass produced with Tom Savini's blessing, whatever, right? You mass produce it in a cheaper way, like they did back in the day with their championship title belts, the 2 millimeter thick plates and very tiny plates on them, and you know, stuff like that. The fake leather and you know, all of this. You do that, and then you sell it for $400 or $500. People are gonna, you know, then be a little bit more apt to buy it. But you're gonna have that market. You do have a market for those who are hardcore collectors, and especially if they are a wrestling fan and a horror fan. So yeah.
So yeah, we'll see what kind of comes to that as time kind of goes here. Now, recently we did see a few returns, which were kind of interesting. The main one that has me interested of all of them is Sheamus coming back, looking like the older Sheamus, not looking quite as stupid. For those who know, when he first came back with that mohawk thing, that "you look stupid" chant really started to kind of go on there. Now he just seems to be kind of rolling back to just, hey, let's just bring back the regular Sheamus that people liked, and we'll see. I'm digging going back to that look that most of us are familiar with, and kind of doing away with the mohawk stuff there. So interested to see what he'll do, because I think he's somebody that's been overlooked for quite a while, and I always thought Sheamus was pretty good. So I'll be watching to see what they do with him. Maybe they can do something in the Rumble or something with him.
Definitely during the Rumble, that would be amazing to have him come out and you know, not necessarily maybe break a record of how many people are thrown over, but just kind of show him as that bigger kind of strong guy that he is. Very nice to see the old look come back. He's looking refreshed, actually, very much so. There were two other superstars, and this is all on SmackDown. Three superstars made their return, and people have been talking about, well, at least two of them I've been hearing about. One, Sheamus. Two, Alexa Bliss came back. You know, is still partnering up with Nikki Cross. Yeah. So that is still a thing. People were a little bit concerned and worried what's going to happen, but she's come back and everything is good there. And then the one that seems to be on the back burner that nobody's really talking about is Elias. Yeah, has made his return as well. So some good names coming back to SmackDown, making their returns, and it'll be interesting to see what all of them can bring to maybe help elevate SmackDown a little bit more since moving to Fox.
And with Elias too, I'm really hoping that they can shift more towards doing more wrestling in the ring and less of this stuff of you know, the vignettes and the just playing the guitar at the beginning. I get that it was part of his character, but I always felt like they shifted too far in that direction and kind of really left out a lot of the wrestling stuff. I think that the guy's a decent worker in the ring, and if they could kind of elevate that aspect of it, you know, you could really have something there. But just it feels like they've focused too much on character, and the wrestling was left to the wayside.
Definitely, I would have to agree. If I can make one suggestion to these writers, go back and take a look at Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett was amazing in that role that he had, where he would play the guitar, he would come out there with the guitar, but he still put on amazing performances and wrestling matches. And I think that we definitely could see the same thing with Elias if given the opportunity and things are written properly.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we do our Match of the Week segment, this wasn't originally on the run, but I just wanted to make a brief mention to it because I thought there was a couple of noteworthy things that we can kind of talk about with the most recent episode of AEW Dynamite. We did see your least favorite referee kind of back in action there. Still definitely seeing that they really need to tone back what he's doing, the reacting to everything happening in the ring, every punch and everything like that. They really, really need to tone that down with that guy. And the other thing that I picked up on this, and I'm sure a lot of other people listening or watching the show, maybe didn't necessarily pick up on this, but as somebody who sits through and edits audio for 2 different podcasts here every week, and somebody who really listens to fine details in audio recordings and whatnot. During the show, I don't know if you picked up on this, Carl, but it felt like they had a microphone under the ring, and it felt like it was like right there, and it was turned up too high because you could hear like every little creak and crack and movement, and it really kind of took me out of things a little bit. I don't know if you picked up on that at all.
I did pick up on it just a little bit. You're right. I don't know if there was a mic underneath that ring, or if the microphones on the cameras maybe were a little bit too high, or maybe that camera that's on the ring post, that one maybe was up a little bit too high and kind of hearing everything reverb through the ring post. I don't know what it was, but yeah, you're right. There was it seemed a little bit more prominent this week than it has in weeks past.
Mm-hmm. Like it almost felt like they had maybe like a Blue Yeti mic, like one of those mics that just like picks up like all the background noise and everything, and then they had it. It feels like they had it so close there, and even on commentary, and even some of the guys talking in the ring, you could hear it. Just sounded like the audio into the production was a little off this last week. They did a lot of good stuff there, but to me that was just kind of the one hitch that, especially hearing everything to do with the ring there, it did take me out of things a little bit.
You know what? I think I understand what happened.
What's that?
Somebody in production turned up the wrong microphone.
It's possible.
Instead of turning up the microphone on this elusive, mysteriously disappearing commentator,
yeah, we'll get to that.
They turned up the mic on something else. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe that's what it seems like to me.
That definitely very well could be the case. Okay, before we do our Showstopper segment for the week here, Carl, let's do our Match of the Week segment, which has also become a very popular segment here. I'll let you go first. What's your pick for Match of the Week?
Match of the Week for me, you people have not even seen it yet, but I will tell you, you people will be able to see this matchup. This is actually coming from local independent wrestling that happened here on Sunday night. This was a phenomenal show. We'll get into this a little bit afterwards, but match of the week for me anyways, and I'm sure you all will agree once you see it as well. We had CWE champion. They're calling him the Horror King, Vincent. Mm-hmm. We're talking Vinny Marsalia.
Yes. And
the number 1, Brian Johnson, worker in the ROH dojo and in ROH, defeated the Juice, Juventud Guerrera, and hometown boy, the Sin City Saint, Vinny Da Vinci. Nice. In this matchup, it was just everything played so nicely together into everything. Juvi was originally scheduled to team with Hotshot Danny Duggan, mm-hmm. who made his way out to the ring, and before competing, before even getting into the ring, Vincent stopped and said, "Hey, what are you doing? Are you sure you want to get into this ring?" We all know, we talked about a while ago that he was in a car accident and that it was flipped over. That was brought up by Vincent. The Horror King actually had a plastic bag and said, I'll use this plastic bag to suffocate you and waterboard you like you were a while ago and bring you back to that, and kept saying, "I'm in your head. I am. I'm in your head." And then Danny actually left and didn't return at all. So Juvi had to go and find himself an opponent or a tag team partner, and ran to the back and grabbed Vinny Da Vinci and pulled him out. So when you guys see it, I'm sure you'll agree it was a phenomenal match. Everything was great about it, and I'm guaranteeing you guys will be able to see it. So,
yeah, some interesting psychology going on there. Now that I've heard you talk about it, it's interesting what they did there. For me, my match of the week comes from AEW Dynamite from this past weekend. And of course, we were talking about the match with Kenny Omega and Pac here. I really enjoyed, this was basically a rematch because, of course, Pac had beaten Kenny Omega previously. Kenny getting the win on him this time. Great back and forth, exactly what you would expect out of these two guys. And it looks like there's going to actually be a third match now that they've each taken one. Pac is like, I gave you a rematch, now you give me a rematch, and we're gonna see who wins wins overall here. So some really good stuff kind of going on there, and each time that these two guys step in the ring, it's always phenomenal.
It definitely is, and that was a great match as well. I'm still so hyped about everything that All Elite Wrestling is doing. Even at this independent show that I was at, people were talking about All Elite Wrestling. So it's been very well received with fans, and even fans who were not fans right now, but were in the past. So it's really starting to build, and people are really starting to get behind it. So happy to hear that your pick was from AEW.
Now I'm glad that you mentioned them, because I almost forgot for us to talk about before we took the break. You were at that, as you mentioned, the CW show there at Sault Ste. Marie. We did mention the one match. That's not all that happened there. Give us a little bit more of an overall kind of the whole deal there.
The whole deal was phenomenal. I mean, Danny and the CWE always put on an amazing show every time that they come. This happened at Sue Blaster here in Sault Ste. Marie, and it was pretty much a sold-out show. There were, from what I'm being told, there was a little over 300 people at this independent event. So I'll run through the card here. There was only 5 matches that happened, but it was a packed night of action. So we had Wild Horse TKO Ryan. He was victorious over XWX Germany star, the Hamburg heartthrob Norman Harris. And then we had the masterpiece of the East, Alex Zwicker, scoring a pinfall over the headline Shawn Martins in an intergender match. Now, unfortunately, this match was supposed to be Crystal Moon versus Alex Zwicker. Crystal Moon, unfortunately, had sustained a concussion just a couple of days prior and was not able to make the date. So, little unfortunate, considering Crystal Moon is actually a hometown girl as well. She was born and raised in Sault Ste. Marie and then moved down to Southern Ontario to get her professional wrestling training. And then match number 3, we talked about already, that amazing tag team match that happened. So much going on in this. It was just phenomenal to see. Then we had the CWE Canadian Unified Junior Heavyweight Champion, the Zombie Princess, Jimmy Jacobs, retaining his belt against local guy, Matt Powers. So this was almost like a proving ground match for Matt Powers. He is a young guy in the business still, and was given a shot and an opportunity, and really pulled it out. And I think that we may be seeing some more from Matt Powers. And then in the main event of the night, a very emotional matchup that happened, we saw the Sin City Saint, Vinny Da Vinci, going up against his brother, his cousin, whatever you want to say, his longtime tag team partner, Diego Da Vinci, in what is Diego's retirement match. Awesome back and forth match between the two of them. They've worked together for so long that they definitely know each other's moves and are able to anticipate absolutely everything that was coming at them. Vinny Da Vinci getting the pin over Diego. At the very end of the matchup, we did see Vinny on the mic saying that he does love his brother and that he is so happy that the matchup was able to happen, and extended the hand and said, "Shake my hand, give me a hug, and I love you." Yes. So at the end of the night, we got to see the two of them shake the hand, give a hug, and the night ended with Diego Da Vinci in the ring as the crowd had an immense amount of signs that said, "Thank you, Diego." Very nice and emotional to see. Great send-off for Diego Da Vinci in his retirement match. Now, we did learn that CWE will be returning to Sault Ste. Marie Sunday, May 24th on their 11th anniversary tour.
Nice, and I do know that they are venturing down as far as Toronto and whatnot. I'm hoping that Danny can come even a little bit further, maybe to the southwest over to where I am in Brantford, Ontario, Canada, and I can see some CWE around this area. So fingers crossed that can happen. And I know they want to start going out east as well. So things are looking really good for CWE, and I'm happy for Danny and all the guys over there that continue to work hard, and we're seeing some really good success here, and I'm happy for those guys.
Me too.
All right, Carl, we're going to take a brief break here. We're going to come back with our Showstopper segment, and we're going to talk funky commentators. We'll be right back. This week's episode is brought to you by Collar & Neville. Visit coloradobrand.com where you can get an additional 10% off when using promo code JKPodcast at the checkout, including this week's featured item, the Mirror Pullover Hoodie. All right, guys, Big Joe and Carl back here on Turnbuckle Talk.
That's right, guys, and that is Carl Carafel back here with Big Joe. And we are at that great time of our podcast. Everybody loves this. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Showstopper Segment.
This week I figured we touch on something that, we touched on referees last week, which they tend to they don't necessarily get ignored in professional wrestling, but they're usually not a focal point or a main topic of conversation. I thought we would talk about some commentary people. And what kind of got me going with this was, if you watch the most recent episode of AEW Dynamite, you may have noticed something a little kind of odd when it comes to commentary. They brought in the usual two guys they have there are Jim Ross, Excalibur, and of course for some reason I can't think of the third guy's name right now. Used to be
Tony Schiavone.
Tony Schiavone, thank you, Carl. Schiavone, I guess, had some prior commitments, I think, with college football commentary. So they brought in this guy named Marco Solis Martinez, and this was clearly this guy's first time being on national television, and I get that. But at the same time, too, I don't think that this guy's had any wrestling commentary experience whatsoever. Like, he said maybe 2 or 3 lines, and like it was just like he was just sitting on his hands.
Yeah, he very much so felt out of place.
Yeah.
He felt out of place. You could even, like, you could see that and feel that in everything that you saw, and even tried to hear. It just so felt out of place. And he left after the first match.
Yeah.
He actually, you could kind of hear over. He's like, "Okay, guys, thanks. This was great. Peace out." And like, he was just gone.
Yeah.
And they didn't mention anything more about it. It was just, yep, okay, Jim Ross and Excalibur, just continue on, guys.
Now, what has me a little concerned about this is when you look at the visual, I'm actually looking at the picture, the still of it, and actually there's a little joke on the top. But when you lie about your resume, but you still get the job, under his name it says All Elite Fleet Announcer. Now, this has me wondering: are they going to do this more often, where they're just bringing in random people to be on commentary?
I don't know.
I hope not.
What is All Elite Fleet?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't found anything about that.
Me either. Like, yeah. I really don't know.
Yeah.
All Elite Fleet.
Yeah. All Elite Fleet Announcer. I'm thinking maybe it's people maybe trying to break into the business, and maybe they give them a little shot or something. But hopefully, we don't get too much more of this. So, if you're going to bring in somebody as a guest announcer like that, they got to have some kind of experience, or they gotta try and figure out, hey, are these people legitimate, or is this somebody that just wanted to get on TV and get their 15 seconds of fame in there?
I think that's exactly what it was. Now, what did they say he was? He was the All Elite Fleet what?
Announcer.
Announcer.
Fleet announcer.
Okay, so from what I'm seeing, there is on TNTdrama.com.
Mm-hmm.
There's a newsletter. Are you All Elite? Join the fleet.
Uh-oh.
The All Elite Wrestling era starts now. You can be among the first to join the revolution. Sign up for AEW's All Elite Fleet for the latest news, videos, merchandise offers, event on sale announcements, chances to win big prizes, and more. This is something that I had no idea even about. I knew nothing about this. So it's looking as though this guy might be the face and voice of this, the All Elite Fleet.
If that's the case, I mean, you stumbled out of the gate and face planted flat on the floor with that one.
Yeah.
That's about all I can say. And the last time something like this happened, I guess it was probably a little bit more... we just saw a lot more of him. It was when Mike Adamle came into the WWE. Of course, he was famous being part of American Gladiators, and was very good in that. And then they brought him in, but he had no experience with professional wrestling. Didn't know the guys' names. Jamaican Me Crazy, Jeff Harvey, just a couple of his catchphrases there. And Cena had some fun with him, kind of almost mockingly. And I know Stephanie and Vince like to have fun with him too. But I mean, at least I think, kind of noticed that, that he wasn't quite fitting there, and just kind of roll with the punches. With this guy, I mean, I would hope that this is just a one-time thing. If they bring in anybody else under this All Elite Fleet thing, at least check and see if they've actually had some experience. Because when you put them against world-class guys like JR and Excalibur, when you bring in a guy like this, he stands out like a porcupine in a nudist colony.
How about this for an idea? If Tony Schiavone or Jim Ross or Excalibur have prior commitments that they have to do, we just run with a 2-man commentary team.
Thank you. Thank you. You read my mind.
Honestly, this 3-person commentary team is really starting to pop up absolutely everywhere, and I am not a fan of it.
No.
All you need is 2 guys. Having a third person there almost seems like that third person is just a third wheel that is really going through a motion, but not really doing and helping in any aspect at all. All 3 of them are amazing. They're great on commentary. Now, if one of them has to be gone for whatever reason, the other one can do the job. Like Jim Ross and Excalibur can do amazing. Yeah. Tony Schiavone and Jim Ross can do amazing. Excalibur and Tony Schiavone can do amazing. All of them can do amazing in a 2-man combination. We don't need to have a third random person who doesn't know anything come in there.
Yeah, and I mean, we look at some of our best commentary teams of all time. I'll just take 2 that stand out personally to myself. They're both beginning from WWE. We had JR and Jerry the King Lawler, a 2-man booth. Didn't need to have more than that. We look at Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse the Body Ventura. Again, another 2-man operation there. Just when you have more than that, like you said, that third person occasionally gets in there, but there's always somebody that just kind of, like you said, is almost kind of sitting on the sidelines, is almost kind of like a third wheel.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's hard in a 3-team commentary, because you're trying not to talk over the other person, but then it happens, and then it sounds just really bad, because now you've got one person trying to say something, the other person trying to say something, and then one person's kind of going, okay, yeah, just talk, yeah, you go ahead this time, and then it just, I don't know. That's how it seems to me. It seems like they just kind of are bowing out, whoever is bowing out. And it seems to be Excalibur that continues to do that, because, I mean, while Excalibur has done commentary before, not to the level that Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone have done it. So, yeah, it's hard, just because it seems like, he's the one that's always kind of sitting back and having to, it would have been awesome, like it was when we saw this latest episode of Dynamite, to have Excalibur being able to talk and express himself more with Jim Ross than to just kind of sit back. So I'm happy with that, and I hope that kind of continues. Don't bring in a third person. It's not needed. If you have to run with 2 commentators, just run with the 2 commentators.
And if you need that third kind of guy, they should call on, and for whatever reason, his name escapes me. He's the commentary on Impact, and his name kind of escapes me at the moment. It'd be somebody that they could bring. They used him at All In, but I can't. I honestly forget the guy.
You talking Don Callis?
Don Callis, thank you. Yes, bring in Don Callis. At least bring in somebody that can talk. Unlike me today, which I'm feeling a little under the weather, so.
It happens.
I can't even remember people's names. Anyways, before we go, Carl, there are some other things that weren't originally on the run I just want to make a brief mention to. Sure. Tommaso Ciampa has said that he basically does not want to have a main roster run, because he feels that it wouldn't be worth it for him or his family and all that. That he would rather become a coach or a producer rather than go over to the main roster. So it looks like he will be staying in NXT, which I think is the smart move for him. And going forward, I like that approach.
I do as well, and honestly, I hope that's kind kind of the mindset that a few more take as well. We don't necessarily really need, to have these stars of NXT making their way to the main roster. Lots of these stars that are in NXT have been in the independent scene or in other companies for a long while. So we've seen them, for throughout the years, and we know what they can do. And we know that things are just going to get lost in the main roster. So that mindset of, I don't need the main roster, I'm good here, or doing something backstage or coaching or helping, whatever. I think that's phenomenal. Good on him.
Now, something else with WWE, and this was quite surprising, but not at the same time, because I know that they have pulled a lot of talent from this company before. Now, WWE over in the UK, they do kind of almost kind of partner up with like Evolve and Progress and that kind of stuff, where they're even allowing their talent to kind of compete for those companies. We're looking at possibly, it was really surprising, Carl, we're looking at possibly a working relationship between WWE and Ring of Honor Wrestling. It looks like they may even looking at doing this fairly soon with guys like Mike Kanellis and Oni Lorcan, of letting them go over compete for Ring of Honor occasionally. So could be looking at some type of working relationship with those two companies, and I think that could really benefit Ring of Honor going forward to kind of get them out of this funk that they're in.
I think it would be phenomenal for them to be able to have some of these names from the WWE go over there, because we know that the WWE is still the biggest company out there. We know that they are still the draw. The names from the WWE are still the draw, no matter what. So to have a star from the WWE be shown on promotional material for a Ring of Honor show will only help boost Ring of Honor. And
I mean, you just look at a lot of the top tier talent in WWE, a lot of them are Ring of Honor alumni, so there's definitely a connection already there. So it's not that far-fetched an idea, and we'll see if it happens. And the last kind of thing that I want to bring up here is, if you watched AEW Dynamite this past week, there was something that really kind of stood out here that I think a lot of people are kind of ignoring this person. She was involved in the women's tag team match. I'm talking about Chris Statlander. She is going to be somebody to watch going forward. If you have a chance to go back and watch that match, kind of see what I'm talking about. She's going to be somebody I think it's going to be important that a company that can help boost that women's division there and maybe make it more of a focal point, because they've done some stuff with the women's division, but it's like they continue to drop the ball there, and I think somebody like her can help kind of elevate that a little bit more.
Definitely, I agree. I'm very happy to see some new names and some freshness coming into the women's division with All Elite Wrestling. This is great to see, and I'm very happy about it.
All right, Carl, that about wraps up for this week, and we will
wait.
Oh, there's
it does
more.
Not.
Oh, you got something else?
I do.
What do we got?
So we're gonna let the speculations fly right now.
Okay.
If you guys are on social media, go to our Facebook, Instagram, and our Twitter at TB Talk Pod. And you guys will have seen this on our Facebook page. We had Kenny Omega sharing out a photo of Marty Scurll, saying Marty Scurll is now a free agent. Yep. So it is legitimate, people. Marty Scurll is a free agent as of Sunday night. And Kenny Omega sharing it out to the world. So take that in for a couple of minutes. Let the speculations start to fly. It's very interesting. This is one of those big names within the professional wrestling industry that people are going to be going, yeah, where's he going? And they're going to continue to watch this. And believe us, we are definitely going to be watching this to see what happens with Marty Scurll and where he is going to land.
All I will say is, if he does go to All Elite, let him kind of do his own thing there. If he joins the Elite, like if he goes back with the Young Bucks and whatnot, I fear for how things could go there. But I think he's good pretty much wherever he ends up. NXT is a real possibility because his girlfriend wrestles for NXT. New Japan is definitely a thing there because he has already a connection with the Bullet Club there. Honestly, he could do well wherever he goes. Just in the AEW, let him do the Villain Enterprises. Maybe he can team up with the Butcher and the Blade, the guys that they debuted there. That, just briefly on that was a really weird. That went over like a funeral with that crowd. These guys didn't no idea who those people were.
Yeah,
just saying.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the problem. They had absolutely no idea
no
who
setup
they are
whatsoever on that. So
yeah,
maybe that could be a new Villain Enterprises. Maybe you can bring those guys into that group. Maybe that's the setup for it. Who knows?
Who knows? But all I know is that I am a little impartial to this, and I sincerely hope that Marty Scurll on his own does make his way into AEW, because then in January of 2020, when I am on the Jericho cruise, I will finally be able to meet one of my favorites and possibly my all-time favorite right now in Marty Scurll.
Yeah, I mean, I'm even wearing the Villain Enterprises shirt right now. Although my personal pick for him would be New Japan Pro Wrestling. But, hey, we'll see. I'm hoping that the news will break on it soon so we can talk about it, because I'm really, really, really curious to see where he ends up, because it's really kind of the talk of the industry right at the moment.
It definitely is. So hopefully, people, next week, you will be able to find out, as we have as well. Yeah, go and follow us, because I'm sure we will put it out there onto our social media at TB Talk Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as soon as the news hits.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, now we can end off this week, Carl, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Have a nice day.
It's me. It's an honor to be the V. As you can tell in the background, we are out celebrating. That is what we do here at hittingthemarks.com. And I invite everyone to continue to tune in to Turnbuckle Talk, but check out all of our other shows. We have weekly content, especially lit up by the flagship show, Hitting the Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast. You can find that all at hittingthemarks.com.
Run.